You're doing a what now?
A game showcase.
A game showcase.
I'm going to show a bunch of games playing on the Odin 2 portal.
And you don't see any problem with this?
No, I play games.
Yeah, that's my problem. You're bad at games.
Have you ever heard of this?
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
I've beaten this game several times over.
You've beaten that game.
I've speedrun this game before.
And what is your best time?
3 minutes.
You can beat that game in 3 minutes.
Sometimes 2 minutes, 55 seconds.
You can beat that thing in less time it takes me to take a shower.
Yeah. You want to see?
Prove it.
Got any NES lying around?
Like I'd play anything with emulation.
There! See? Beat it in under 3 minutes. Beat the whole game.
You do know there are more fighters after Glass Joe, right?
What are you talking about? The game's done. You just turn it off.
You've never waited and just to see what happens after it says you win?
No, like, these cartridges are old. They don't have a lot of memory. You can't have more than one fighter in a game.
There's another fighter after this.
What's a Von Kaiser?
I mean, we could get into how that character came around, but that'd be an entirely different video.
How am I going to beat someone harder than Glass Joe?
A question as old as time, but are you thinking what I think you're thinking?
You don't mean...
Mm-hmm.
Play something easier.
No, dude. Training montage. You're almost there. You got this one. I feel good about this one. You got it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yes. All right. Bring it home. That's one.
7-day return policy. Bad plastics.
Come on. You know, I never say this because it's never true, but for the first time ever, I'm proud of you. You're ready.
Let's do this.
Go get him. Well, we're not doing another montage.
No. Greetings and welcome to the channel. This is Mikhailov from Team Retro, where we like retro games and the devices that bring them to us. In the last week or so since I've been using the Odin 2 portal, I've really been thoroughly testing the device in preparation for my final review. But one of my favorite things to do on this handheld is actually play Switch games. With a recent emulator update, along with the powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip that powers the portal, I've been getting some steady emulation performance. So in this video, I'm going to showcase the results of my testing, and if you have the Odin 2 portal or have one on the way, this might inspire you to give some of these games a try. So let's dive in and get to work. Now before we get started, let me go over the conditions of this showcase. I'm using the latest build of the Citron emulator, which was released a few days ago. In order to properly use this emulator, you will need the prod and title keys for firmware 19.0, as well as firmware 19.0 itself. These are copyrighted files that allow Switch games to work, so you're on your own as far as locating these files. Once you have them though, you can open up Citron and the install process will ask you to locate the prod and title keys. Then you can head into Citron settings and install the firmware. The only other thing that we need to do for this showcase is we need to download the custom Turnip MK1 driver that is compatible with this Snapdragon chip and this version of Citron. The MK1 driver is also available on Citron's website and will be linked in the description. All testing was done using this specific driver. Once the APK is installed and you're on the home page, in Citron settings, head to GPU Driver Manager and click the install button to install the drivers. Make sure that you keep the file zipped or Citron won't recognize it. So now let's adjust a few settings in the emulator itself. The first thing we're going to do is in the Odin quick settings, we're going to switch to the best performance preset and we're going to set the fan curve to smart. This will ensure the best performance and the device won't get noticeably hot or loud during gameplay and the fan won't be blaring or sound like a jet engine. In Citron settings under system, we're going to put the device in the dock mode so we can take full advantage of the 1080p OLED screen on the portal, only switching to handheld mode if we hit performance bumps. Also in the graphics settings, take note of the settings that I'm showing you on the screen right now. If a game isn't performing as expecting, we may need to adjust these toggles on a per game basis. We may also need to increase the accuracy level to high, which you could find in the same menu. During the course of this showcase, I will indicate if I've made any of these changes, and I expect this video will run a little longer than normal, so we'll also have timestamps if there's a specific game in this showcase that you want to see. One important disclaimer to note is that Team Retro does not condone piracy in any way, shape, or form, and every game discussed and shown in this video was legally purchased and backed up. Also, I do not recommend buying the Odin 2 portal specifically for Switch emulation. The best experience for the system will always be on official hardware, and I would consider any games that will play on the Odin 2 portal to be more of a bonus. Now there are a couple of games that I tested that I cannot show actual gameplay of unless I want the ninjas to come at me, so I'm just going to list them here along with how well they performed and any setting changes that I made while I was testing them. Tears of the Kingdom will run at 25 to 30 frames per second in dock mode and seem for the most part smooth, but there are some consistent instances of graphical flickering. I inquired about these graphical issues in the Citron Discord and also tried other emulators like Sudachi, but unfortunately these graphical hiccups are just how it is for the time being. Echoes of Wisdom ran at 60 frames per second, but there were graphical rendering issues and there was really nothing I could do to fix them. They were important ones too, like the rendering of the void areas. The game itself is playable, but not enjoyable, so I wouldn't advise playing this game on Android at this time. Link's Awakening is another title I recommend you avoid on the Odin 2 portal, as there were severe graphical rendering issues that could only be solved by switching to JIT instead of native code execution, which severely hampered the frame rate and worsened the experience. The audio also needs to be set to QBEB, or music and sounds will not play. Super Mario RPG ran at a perfect 60 frames per second, but I had to set the audio to QBEB, otherwise the sounds and music would not play. Mario & Luigi Brothership was stable between 25 and 30 frames per second with some minor graphical flickering. Even using the new MK1 driver, this game wasn't an ideal experience, but it was definitely a playable one. Super Mario Bros. Wonder ran at a perfect 60 frames per second and didn't need any other changes in order to work. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot also ran at 60 frames per second, but required a change back to the default Qualcomm drivers. After that, no other changes were necessary to fully enjoy the game. And finally, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD ran at 60 frames per second without any need to adjust any other settings. So now with the forbidden topics out of the way, let's get on with the showcase starting with Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. This game was actually a Kickstarter stretch goal for its sister game, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and the Bloodstained series is a spiritual successor to the Castlevania games of yesteryear. In Curse of the Moon, you play as Zangetsu, a demon slayer who befriends 3 other adventurers along his journey to destroy a demon lurking in a dark castle. This game runs very well on the Odin 2 portal, with no additional setting changes necessary beyond what we set earlier in this video. Another game that runs very well is a roguelike golf game called Curse to Golf. This game was published by Thunderful Publishing and developed by Chuhai Labs. In this game, you play as a golfer who must first golf his way out of purgatory by completing the levels with the help of a ghost caddy who teaches him how to handle playing golf in this unique scenario. The game runs perfectly fine on the Odin 2 Portal with no additional tweaks necessary. Of course, I couldn't do a showcase without featuring a character who looks just like me, so we're going to play some Dave the Diver. Developed and published by Mint Rocket, Dave the Diver is a sea exploration game where you dive for fish that you then use to maintain a sushi restaurant at night. It sounds simple, but the gameplay gets more and more interesting as secrets are found in the depths of the water. And you won't need to do much to enjoy this game on the Odin 2 Portal, as the game runs amazing without having to change any additional settings. Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake is a modern reimagining of the original NES Dragon Quest III. The remake was developed by ArtDink and published by Square Enix. In order to prevent crashing, accuracy level needs to be set to normal and the game must be played in handheld mode. Even then, there are some mild graphical issues while walking around the overworld. Other than that, the game is playable, maintaining the 30 frames per second cap with occasional dips that do not impact gameplay. Hades is a roguelike dungeon escape game developed and published by Supergiant Games where you play as Zagreus, son of the god of the underworld, Hades. The game has an absolutely gorgeous art style that really shines on the Odin 2 Portal's OLED screen. And thankfully, the game also runs at a steady 60 frames per second without any additional tweaks needed. Speaking of games that look absolutely amazing on the Odin 2 Portal screen, Hollow Knight is a side-scrolling adventure game developed and published by Team Cherry. This game has some stunning visuals and is a game I really need to finish. Thankfully, I can have that opportunity on the Odin 2 Portal as this game runs at a steady 60 frames per second without any additional tweaks needed. Live Alive is a remake of a Super Famicom RPG never before released outside Japan until now. This HD 2D remake is published by Square Enix and follows a group of adventurers through different time periods. On the Odin 2 Portal, you will need to set the accuracy level to high or you will run into issues with graphics rendering. Otherwise, you will not need to make any more changes to fully enjoy this game on the Odin 2 Portal. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind is a beat-em-up along the similar vein to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Streets of Rage games. This game was published and developed by Digital Eclipse and follows the Power Ranger team as they work to prevent Robo Rita from conquering Earth in the past. This game runs on the Odin 2 Portal at 60 frames per second with no extra tweaks or changes. My advice, however, is to play version 1.0.4 or later of this game, as Digital Eclipse made several improvements to this game since its release last October. Monster Hunter Stories is a different take on the Monster Hunter genre published by Capcom. Instead of hunting and defeating monsters, you get to make friends with them and use them in battle. The game was originally released for the 3DS, and while there is an Android port available that will play on the Odin 2 Portal, this Switch version is the definitive way to enjoy this game on this handheld, as the Android version does not have controller support. That said, you will not have any issues running the Switch version, as it runs perfectly with no additional tweaks necessary. Let's take a look at another fun beat-em-up titled River City Girls. Published by WayForward, the same company responsible for the Shantae series, River City Girls features two high school girls, Misako and Kyoko, punching and kicking their way to save their boyfriends. This game has very similar gameplay to River City Ransom, to where the girls can earn experience points, and you earn money during play that you can use to further power up your character. You won't have to punch and kick your way to playing this game on the Odin 2 Portal, as it'll run at a full 60 frames per second with no additional setting changes necessary. Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, developed by Sonic Team and published by Sega, is a remaster bringing the graphics of the original Sonic Generations up to modern standards, while also adding a side story featuring Shadow the Hedgehog as a playable character. This is a pretty demanding game, but is shockingly playable on the Odin 2 Portal. However, you will need to play in handheld mode, and in graphic settings, you will need to turn on force maximum clocks and use asynchronous shaders. There will be some frame rate dips as you play, and some possible graphical rendering issues, but for the most part, the game maintains a steady 30 frames per second on the Odin 2 Portal. Steredenn Binary Stars is a roguelike shmup developed by Pixel Nest Studio and published by Tai Games. In this game, you attempt to shoot your way through an enemy armada, earning power-ups along the way. This game can get very difficult and has bullet hell qualities. The game runs at a steady 60 frames per second without any additional changes necessary. And finally, we're going to end this showcase with a game that is similar to Zelda, considering that most Zelda games don't emulate well on this handheld. Tunic is a game published by Finji and features a fox in a green tunic trying to find his way around a treacherous overworld. Navigating this overworld is no problem on the Odin 2 Portal, as the game runs at the targeted 30 frames per second with no need for any tweaks or changes. And so that ends our Switch emulation showcase. You can now order the AYN Odin 2 Portal direct on the AYN website, and I'll leave purchase links in the video description, and look forward to my final review of the Odin 2 Portal in the coming days. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and please feel free to continue the conversation on the Retro Handhelds and Steam Machine Discords, where you could find me hanging out in between videos. And if you want to support the channel like these wonderful people on the screen, you can do so by going to my Patreon page. Links for all these places are in the description. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe if this video was helpful to you in any way. Every smash of that button helps the channel grow and allows me to get more content out to you. But until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.
And nobody wants to fix your stuff themselves and have a t-shirt.
I think you made your point.